Well, hey there, and welcome to Unmistakably You. I'm Amy, and I am here as always every Wednesday to talk to you about wedding stuff. So, we hope that your plans are going super smoothly, but we know that there are inevitable hiccups. If you are newly engaged, congrats. And I'm sure you're probably starting to have some of those awkward money conversations that you're like, what the heck are we talking about? How do we do this? What is realistic? It's tough. In fact, in wedding world, I like to kind of joke that budget is a four-letter word because realistically, it is a big stumbling block unless you are independently wealthy and you can afford to do whatever you can possibly imagine. You're probably going to have to deal with the realities of creating a budget, and that's easier said than done when you don't know what you don't know. So it's pretty difficult to come up with a budget to allow reasonable amounts of money for things when you really don't have much of an idea what realistic is. So, first and foremost, I would invite you to join us in the spring for our budget workshop. We will talk you through this. You will leave with a completely done for you realistic budget and a whole bunch of information to back that up so that you know what you're getting into and you know some of the things to look out for and some of the ways to save money. So check that out on our website, unmistakably.com/workshops. That's coming up in the spring. But tonight, I just wanted to chat quickly about how to have some of those awkward money conversations. Now, I wish I could wave a magic wand and make those awkward conversations go away. I could make them less awkward. If I could, I would. But there's unfortunately no way to do that. It's just that in our polite society, talking about money is just kind of icky and we don't like to do it. But it's a reality of being engaged and deciding what your wedding is going to look like. So I just wanted to give you a couple of quick tips about how to talk to your partner about budget, how to talk to your parents about budget, and how to talk to your vendors about budget. First and foremost, regardless of who you're talking to, I'm going to encourage you just to be honest and not to assume anything, because talking about money can be dicey, it can be emotional, it can be kind of triggering. And so we want to always make sure that everybody's comfortable, that you're in perhaps a neutral area when you're talking about money. Don't have these conversations in a place where you feel stressed out, and make sure that you are always just being forthcoming and honest about your expectations, what you feel is realistic, and what you're comfortable with. So, first and foremost, you need to talk to your partner. You need to have a sense of what you want in a wedding, because a brunch wedding is going to come in at quite a different price tag than a very formal four-course plated meal with a dance and an open bar. So, you need to have the conversation with your partner first about what you're envisioning and how many people you're envisioning. Once you have kind of a general sense of the style of wedding and the guest count, you can start to do some really basic math. Now, I mean, I could talk about this for hours and hours. I can't right now. So just know that food and beverage are going to be your biggest spend on the wedding, and they're likely to come in at about 50% of your overall budget. So if you're sitting there going, well, what the heck is reasonable? Assume that food and beverage is 50%, multiply the number of people by what it's reasonable to spend per head. How do you know that? Well, you do have to do a little bit of research behind the scenes. I can tell you that right now in our southwestern Ontario wedding climate, you're not likely to spend less than $150 per person on a meal and an open bar at any venue really out there. So very basic math, 150 per person times the number of people, and that's going to give you about 50% of your budget. So have those conversations with your partner about what to expect, and then do a little bit of research into some venues that appeal to you. Get some basic packages, get some basic pricing, and that'll give you at least a baseline that is maybe more reasonable than what you would have pulled out of your head otherwise. You're also going to want to talk with your partner about what's coming. Are you saving for a house? Are you hoping to start a family soon? Is there a move coming up? Is there a job change coming up? Are you still new in your career and you're not sure what that looks like yet? So these are all the things that you want to talk about with your partner when you're determining what you're comfortable spending overall. And I want to encourage you not to assume anything, either of your partner or of your parents. So when you're having these conversations, don't necessarily assume that your parents are going to contribute anything. That's where you have to have those conversations. So again, try to make everybody comfortable, sit down in a comfortable, neutral place and have those honest conversations. Say, Mom, Dad, you know that we're planning a wedding. Here's what we're envisioning. Here's what we're anticipating spending. We're just wondering if you would be comfortable contributing to the wedding or if you would rather just be a guest. And that's kind of the only way to start that conversation. Hopefully your parents will be really straightforward with you about if or what they are intending to contribute, and that'll give you an idea of how to either pad your budget or what to take off of the amount that you intended to spend originally. I would encourage you not to assume that your parents are going to pay for everything unless they've explicitly told you this in the past, and unless you've had that conversation. Again, just, you know what they say about assumptions, they make an ass out of you and me. So just make sure that you're having the conversation before you assume anything, because you would hate to spend, X amount of dollars assuming that your parents are going to pay for half of it and then find out in the end that they're not intending to do that at all. You do not want to start your marriage in an uncomfortable hole of debt. So have those conversations, be honest, straightforward, tell them what you want and find out what, if anything, they're willing to contribute. You'll also want to have conversations about who, if anyone, they're intending to invite, because oftentimes if parents are contributing financially, they feel that they perhaps have the leeway to invite some of their own guests as well. Now, finally, when you're talking to your vendors, I would encourage you to have some sense of approximately where they're going to come in your budget or what you're comfortable spending before you sit down and have a consult with them. Now, that's not always possible. Not everybody publishes their prices. And again, you don't know what you don't know. You may be comparing the price of a bouquet to what you've seen in a grocery store, which realistically just isn't actually a legitimate comparison, because weddings are such a high touch event. You're going to spend so much more time meeting with your florist and changing plans and tweaking things and finalizing details. It's a really high touch and high emotion event in your life. And so comparing the price of a bridal bouquet to a bouquet that you would find in the supermarket just really isn't a fair comparison. And the same is true of any wedding vendor. So if they don't publish their prices, see if they'll give you an idea of the baseline before you schedule a meeting. If they prefer to speak in person, you might want to be really straightforward and say, hey, here's my overall budget. Do you see your services fitting into that budget? I don't want to waste your time or mine in having a consult if it's not something that we can afford. Now, I would always encourage you to hire the best professionals you can afford, whether you're talking flowers or food or hair and makeup or planning, because you really honestly do get what you pay for. But I understand that a wedding is a huge expense and that you can't really have the Cadillac in every single element of the day. So you do have to set some priorities. You do have to be realistic, but try to have those conversations openly and honestly with vendors before signing on the dotted line. I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with couples who've come in and they've completely blown their budget because they weren't really 100% sure what they were getting into before they signed that contract. So again, that's a whole other topic, reading and signing contracts, but please make sure that you've spoken with your partner, you've spoken with your parents, and that you have a really realistic sense of what you're comfortable spending before you start to book vendors, because I don't want you to dig yourself a hole that then you can't really get yourself out of when you've overcommitted to a venue or you've spent more than you can afford on a photographer, and then you're constantly trying to backpedal to make up the difference. It's challenging. It's uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I wish I had a magic wand to wave to make it easier for you, but budget is a tricky thing, and it's going to ultimately dictate a lot of the choices that you're able to make during your wedding planning. So again, if you're looking for some support, if you're looking for some help, don't hesitate to reach out. You can always find me, Amy, at unmistakably.you.com. You can post a comment on this video, or you can sign up for our budget workshop coming up in the spring. And I just want to also, while I've got you, let you know that next week's Wedding Wednesday live is actually not happening on Wednesday. It's going to happen on Tuesday. We're inviting on some special guests. We'll have some, not all are able to make it, but most of our team is going to be here from Unmistakably You. And we're going to do our yearly wedding wine down. So grab a glass of something, whether that's wine, whether it's a beer, whether it's a cup of tea, or even a glass of water. Join us next Tuesday, November the 21st at 8 o'clock, when we share some stories of things we encountered this year. Names will be eliminated to protect the innocent and the guilty, and it'll definitely be entertaining. We have some pretty awesome things that we dealt with this year, and some funny things, and some things that'll just blow your mind. So join us Tuesday the 21st at 8 to chat about that. Until then, good luck with those budget conversations and happy planning.